Hey guys, I'm John with Tops and Brews, and I've consumed nothing but beer for the past 46 days. I think we should talk about that. So that's right, for 46 days in a row, I have not eaten any vegetables, meat, any juices, protein shakes, dairy, you name it, essentially. I haven't had any of it. I just had wonderful beer. There was a little bit of water involved too, but I think let's get into that and talk about it. But first, I'm betting you probably want to know where this crazy idea even started. Well, I already did a longer video on that. So the Polaner monks actually came up with this a long time ago, almost 400 years ago. They came up with this idea for a liquid bread as they fasted for Lent. And they're still making this recipe today. That's where we get the Polaner Salvator. Cheers all. Oh yeah. Now, almost over 400 years ago, they developed this recipe and they thought it was actually too good. So they sent a barrel of it to the Pope at the time. And as it traveled through the Alps, unfortunately, well, weather changes at different altitudes, and it takes a long time to travel to the Vatican. And during that time, that big old barrel, well, it spoiled. And the Pope tasted this, well, not good beer anymore, because it's a wonderful beer. And he basically lightly put it as, if anyone's gonna drink this horrible tasting thing, bless them and bless their hearts, because that is really going to get them close to God and purify them the most. So drink up and have as much as you want. I'm paraphrasing, but I assume he said something along those lines. Now word got back to the monks about this and they celebrated. Now they've been doing this diet for, like I said, almost 400 years. Now it's been tweaked a little bit here and a little bit there, but really not a whole lot. They've been encouraged to, yes, hydrate, so you have water. And to live, you do need some vitamins. So really all I had was a small daily vitamin, a lot of water, and well, any beer I really wanted. So I went and researched for over a year, talked to some of the other people who have done this, read a lot of the articles that they wrote about what happened, read up on the history of how the monks are able to do this. And I made sure to take all of the proper steps and precautions. Now, I'm gonna walk you through that right now, and then we'll move on to some other parts, okay? Now, like I said, I'm not the first person to do this. There's obviously the monks who did this, but there are a handful of other people who have documented their journey as well. So I was able to get a lot of research in and just general nutrition, fasting style liquid diets and what goes into all of those. So with a juice or liquid only fast, you're usually taking in vitamins from the juice. So beers actually do contain some bit of vitamins, especially more of the craft heavier style ones. It contains vitamin A, B, D, and E. In fact, in a pint of a beer, it gives you 23% of your vitamin B12. It's actually quite a lot. And depending upon the style you get, there are some minerals, but it's always good to have that kind of a one a day. So you know your body's getting the required vitamins it always has. Now something interesting starts to happen on just about any long-term liquid diet or long-term fast is your body goes into what's called a keto state. Now what that is your body will start eating away at its own fat to get fuel. And in the process of that, you start to lose weight. Your energy level actually is still quite high, and there's a lot of interesting things that still go on. It is very interesting. I mean, think of it this way. I didn't have any type of processed food or preservatives or any chemical in my body for a month and a half. My body got flushed out. Better than an enema. So, you want an enema, or do you want to drink a bunch of beer? You decide. So the 46-day beer diet, I kind of wanted to talk to you about, well, the experience as a whole. I tried to do these weekly wrap-ups, and so now I'm going to try to give you a 46-day wrap-up. If you want to know more about the in-depth things that I was going through weekly, go check out the videos that I did. This is going to be a big summary of the 46-day experience. Delicious. So yeah, the first couple of days really wasn't actually that bad. The first day, you kind of feel semi-hungry, not really, because you still have food inside of you. I thought having a large meal, literally at 11:30, just chowing down food, trying to fill my stomach up, that's gonna get me the best possible because my system's gonna have food to digest. It actually wasn't probably the best idea because my body took a lot of energy trying to digest that food, and I wasn't replenishing that energy. So by doing a large meal just before I started, it kind of hurt me. So then the day 2 and day 3 were actually kind of hard because of that. So basically it was just kind of a shock to my system stating, hey, you need calories. Now, I was still able to function. It was completely fine. It was just, I would crash at like 8 o'clock and be like, I'm done, I'm ready to go to bed. So the first week in itself was kind of a lot of ups and downs. The first day was semi-rough. Second day was like, this is a breeze, this is easy. Third day was the gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Oh, I need food, I need something, you know, that whole starvation thing. And it was then fourth, okay, that's not as bad again. It was somewhere between day 2 and day 3. It was like right in the middle, similar to say day 1. And then day 5, 6, and 7 were like, oh, okay, my body is coming out of the shock. It's learning a little bit how to deal with this, and I'm learning how much beer to intake. So around day 4, 5, 6, and 7, I found my routine. It was a big English pint of water, and then a multivitamin. Every time I followed that routine, I felt great. Anytime I never followed that routine, which I did like 2 or 3 times through this 46 days, horrible morning. So the first week was basically just a bunch of trial and error stuff. But overall, wasn't a horrible experience. You kind of get through it. Then week 2 hits and you're just like, oh, I'm cruising, this is easy. I found my groove, this totally works. So what week 2 taught me was I had to learn to start pacing myself. It wasn't that I couldn't do the projects or my regular routine or maintenance stuff around my house. It's just I had to prep a little bit differently. I had to tell my brain and really plan ahead. So this helped prep me for the next couple of weeks to say, okay, I gotta mow the lawn. It usually only took me 30 minutes to mow my lawn. It's probably gonna take me an hour now to mow my lawn because I'm gonna have to either walk slower or take more breaks. I had to take things a little bit slower. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And so I'm gonna get there. I just gotta be patient and just hang on. It's gonna get done, it's gonna get done. Just maybe not as fast as I wanted to. Something that did start happening in the middle of week 1, but really hit its peak and stride in week 2 was my senses really started to pick up. My smell was, I could smell things from 2, 3 rooms back. There was also a sense of clarity that really started coming in during week 2. Like, I could focus on stuff a lot easier. Now, my taste was also changing in that my tongue was starting to become a bit more chalky and not necessarily dry, but it just had this really weird grainy feeling, like if you ate a lot of bread and then you didn't wash your mouth with anything and you just have that wheat bread taste in your mouth all the time. Because of that, my beer started to taste different. This Polliner Salvatore was the first beer I had, and I thought it's delicious. And even now, I think it's delicious. At week 2, I was like, wow, this is starting to taste like candy. It was sweet. All of my favorite beers started to taste sweet. And it was kind of slightly becoming the beginning of a problem. So then week 3 started hitting, and again, week 3 seemed to be like a cakewalk. It felt like a cakewalk. It was just breezing through. At this time, I was like really getting into cooking, and because my smells and aromas, so I wanted to like experience everything. So, but I did start noticing that like, okay, because my tastes are kind of changing, these beers are getting sweeter, it's kind of getting hard to drink particular styles of beer. So when I started looking into my fridge of like, what's the next beer or meal I'm going to have, I was like, the way I prepped for this wasn't necessarily probably the best, because I went and got a bunch of multi-grainy beers. I bought a lot of Salvatore, honestly, thinking, okay, this is gonna be high calorie, this is malty, this is great. I bought a bunch of Hefs, and then you know, a nice variety of IPAs, thinking, okay, I got multi-grainy beers, I'll counteract that with hoppy beers, I can go back and forth. Unfortunately, modern IPAs nowadays are also very malty and sweet, especially the modern hazy ones. So it didn't really play out kind of how I wanted. So I had to go to the bottle shop, kind of buy a bit more different beers that I wanted. So I went for some stouts. So like, okay, it's still malty, it's sweet, but it's a different kind of sweet. You know, if you go with like a coffee. So I started trying to find my balance in beer and what I needed to have in that. And I knew that a light lager wasn't really going to give me the calorie count that I wanted, so I kind of stayed away from a bit of the lighter beers. That was my thinking at the time, okay? Hang on, we'll get to this, it's almost done, I swear. So that was basically week 3, was, oh, I gotta go prep a little more. But as far as body experience and issues and how hard was it, was I hungry? No, again, week 3, easy to get through. So week 4 was also very similar. The middle of the aspect of all of this stuff was all very easy to get through. And it really was around week 3 and week 4 that I started to physically notice a physical change in my body of the weight that I started to lose and just the way my body was changing. You know, I already started the whole keto stage where your body starts eating its own fat for fuel. So like I said, the whole middle aspect of this diet, 2, 3, 4, those weeks just kind of all squished together and cruised by. My body didn't really have much of an issue. There was really no adjusting. I found my pattern. It was toward the end of this, you know, the end of week 3, week 4-ish, around that, I personally noticed a physical change in my body, my appearance. So then we come up into week 5. Now week 5 is a 50-50 mix of cruising, and you start to notice the challenges that come ahead of you, because you are already at that 30-day mark and you've passed it, and then you're reaching that 40-day mark within, you know, that I got 1 week left type deal. Now, there was a very, very quick change from I'm in my 30-day count to my 40-day count. And within those 10 days, I personally felt a big, fast, quick change in my experience of feeling like I'm technically done, I'm almost done. Oh my gosh, why isn't this done yet? Why have I been doing this? This is taking forever. The best analogy I could ever come up with was like standing in line and waiting for the restroom. Every day you're a person back. So if I was at 14 days left, I was the 14th person in line to the bathroom, and I really had to pee. And then every person you get closer to the bathroom, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna get there. Oh, I can't hold it, I can't hold it. I'm gonna get there, oh, I can't hold it, I can't hold it. And it's just kept feeling like that. And so every day that you would get closer and closer, you were like, oh, I got this, oh no, I don't got, oh no, this is really hard and frustrating, I just can't wait to get done. So then we hit into that final stretch, the week 6, 6.5, you know, the last basically 14 to 10 days you need to be done. And that's where it gets rough. That's where it goes insane. That's where your mind really starts tricking you into being like, I could have that snack. I could do this. You know what, maybe I'll just be done. Maybe I'll just do 43 days is good enough. 39 days is good enough. This is good. This is fine. This is fine. I'll do this. Oh my gosh, I can't have any more beer. What's the beer I'm gonna have? I'm sick and tired of all these beers. So you kind of go a little crazy in the sense that you know you're on the very, very final leg of this. And you just want to be done because you're wanting food, you're wanting to be with your friends, you're wanting to hang out, to do all that kind of stuff. You really miss things. You kind of forget what normal life was like. As far as being hungry all the time, I still wasn't hungry. I still had my routine. My routine was actually working very well. In fact, by it was like week 4 and 5, I was in such a great routine that I was drinking even less beer. I used to drink 4 to 5 a day for the first couple of weeks. And week 4 and 5, I actually went down to 3 a day because my stomach just shrank so much that I couldn't fill it up more. And beer has a lot of gas in it, so when you pour it down into your stomach, it just expands. You can't just sit there and chug a bunch of Bud Lights. It just doesn't work that way. When you have food and your stomach is used to stretching and expanding, it's nice and loose, yes, you can chug that much down. So I was cruising and it was getting toward the end, and one thing I did start noticing was I really wanted to have that goal of 200 plus beers, and I had to start bringing up my numbers. So I did have to start having 5 a day. An interesting thing did start to happen was that for me to do that, I did have to switch to lighter beers. And what I decided to do was switch to more sours, farmhouse ales as my 5th beer, because they're lighter in calories, they're lighter in flavor, should be fine. I should have already had my calorie count for that day, and I would throw in one of those and I should be fine. And my body just loved them. It could be the fact that my body was having malty, grainy, and IPA hoppy beers for the first 5 weeks, and at the end stretch, I was like, oh my gosh, something different, or not, I don't know. But I started having sours, farmhouse, naturally fermented, and stuff that was a little bit more modern style of beers, and my body just loved it and was like, I want more of this. That helped tremendously, honestly. The last couple of days, that really, really helped as a big switch. Maybe it was just something different in my routine, but that really helped. But another thing I did notice was going from 3 beers a day to 5 beers a day. It took about 2 or 3 days to re-stretch my stomach back out to contain that many beers. But once I did that, I did find myself to have more energy. And some weird things started to happen. And this a little bit happened while I was going through it. Like I would lose roughly about almost a pound a day. It was like 0.75 to 1 pound a day. And that's crazy, I know, right? We'll get to the full numbers real soon here. So for the last 14 to 20 days, something extremely weird started to happen. Little bits of this were happening all throughout it, but this was the most extreme amount. Going from 3 beers a day to 5 beers a day, I noticed that my weight would fluctuate a lot. And it was so weird because I was so used to losing around a half a pound to a pound a day. And that's actually really extreme if you think about it. I know it sounds fun, but it's extreme. It would be gain 4 pounds, lose 1 pound, and then I lost 5 pounds. But then I gained 3 pounds, and then I lost 1 pound, and then I lost 5 pounds. So I was actually losing even more weight faster. It was odd because I was getting what felt like a little bit more energy, so I was running up and down the stairs with my son, playing a little bit harder. It felt almost like back to its peak. So it was very interesting. You would gain 3 to 4 pounds and then you would lose 5 to 6 pounds within 2 days later. So I'd go on the scale and be like, oh man, I just gained 3 to 4 pounds. And then 2 days later, oh my gosh, I lost 6 pounds. And so it would go up then down and up then down. It was very, very odd. There was still that idea of I'm so close to the end. It was very, very, very hard, and it was starting to drive me nuts. This helped for a bit of a distraction, but the last 7 days of this, so this is day 39 to 46, were the hardest I've experienced this whole time. It was the week of misery. It was every day, it was, I'm almost done, I'm almost done, I'm almost done, I'm almost, you just felt, no matter how many beers, no matter what I did, beaten and broken and exhausted, just more mentally, not physically. You're just like, I want to be done. I want to be done. I want to be done. I can't wait to be done. I can't wait to go back to normal life. I can't wait to do this. So that part was probably the hardest aspect. Then finally, day 46 arrived. My goal of 200 beers was reached. Number 200, again, Paul or Salvatore. And then I hit that actually pretty early, so I was like, I'm gonna celebrate with 201. That way I could say I had 201 beers. Don't believe me? No. Here they are. Told you, 201. So during this whole 46-day process, I got a lot of questions and I wrote a lot of them down. So I wanted to address those to you now. So let's go ahead and do that.